All right, everybody. We are going to be glazing our mini pots in this next couple of days or two. I've got a kiln coming out. You guys are going to check that one out. And you guys can get to this as soon as you see this video, I suppose. So I want to go over a couple of very quick techniques. Some being super ultra fast, some being super ultra simple for this project. This is a mini pot, maybe a little bit bigger than the ones that you guys made, on the same clay that you guys work with blue 98 on top, half dip. And some of this is super straightforward. If you want to dip the whole thing in one color, you can. That is a choice. If you want to do a half dip or maybe a diagonal dip, those are all encouraged. If you want to take a color, a base color, something neutral, and then put some brighter colors on top of the surface to see what they do, this is encouraged as well. Less is more in a lot of situations. What I wouldn't necessarily do is try and brush the most intricate things that you can on top of the surface of your mini pots using a bunch of different glazes, mainly because all rules still apply. We know that glazes, when the two colors meet or the two different glazes meet, they're going to blend and fuse and you're going to get some overlap. They don't always stay put. So if you have a clean line like that in liquid form, you might not get a clean line after the fact. If it's a heavy dip of color, then you might end up having drips and drops and stuff like that. So it really does depend on you guys to, or relies on you guys to know what you want to do before you jump into the process. We have textures in a lot of situations, and there are some glazes that are going to do better with textures. There's going to be some glazes that don't do great with textures and are going to hide your details. And if any of those questions come up, please check in with me and I'll kind of walk you through some stuff and make sure you understand the best way to get your projects looking good. And with that said, a little bit of internet research is not a bad idea. If you hit the internet and you type in something along the lines of glaze brushing techniques, you are going to find a whole bunch of different ways to go about doing things. And if you see something that you like, that is interesting on a very blank canvas style of a project, and it's something you can't quite figure out, check in with me. There's usually a workaround or a way to mimic what you're looking at in that video. All right, so technique demonstration, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on with the project. These things do not need to be dunked in water. We definitely want to get rid of any dust that exists and just kind of solve that problem. So we're going to turn our water on and give it a quick rinse. Maybe I'll put a bucket of water back there, but because these things are so thin, they do not need a lot of water to rehydrate them to get rid of the dust. If you put too much water on the surface of your projects, then you are, I promise you, going to end up having a very thin coat, okay? And a little bit of this stuff is intuition. I'm gonna do a quick dip like this. It's gonna be a half. Very common. And you guys will be able to see this happen before your very eyes. I'll get my stir stick right there. And for those of you who want those clean, pretty lines, we have cups all over the place that are going to make it easier for you guys to work with this stuff on a small scale, especially if you're working with the big buckets. So make sure the cup is clean that you're working with, and it's going to be pretty straightforward. Check it. I want to do a half dip, halfway down. We typically start with the inside, and then after about 2 seconds, we're going to pour the stuff out and give it a little spin. And then while the glaze is still wet, give it a little drop like so. I like to spin it so that the glaze doesn't pool in specific areas. And then bam, if that's what you're trying to achieve, then that's all you gotta do. It's that simple. So I'm gonna put that one to the side, let it dry up for a second, and then I'm gonna move on to another technique using another similar project, right? Again, the story remains the same. I'm gonna do a complete dip. No, I'm gonna skip the complete dip. Tongs, if you want to do one color all the way up and down, all the way in, quick, fast dip, pour out the extra stuff, and bam, you're good to go. All right, nice and easy, nice and easy. Now, if you want to do kind of a 2-color dip where you have half here, half there, it is entirely possible for you to take your glaze once it's dry and set up, and I'm going to use a contrasting color here so that you can very clearly see what's happening, is once the glaze has set up on the surface, if we dunk the bottom in just like we did with our pinch pots many months ago, get rid of some of the extra stuff, and then bam, I've got black on the bottom and white on the top. Nice and simple. Nothing crazy there. Mr. Parkhill, can I do a half dip like so and then dip the other half? Absolutely. Mr. Parkhill, can I overlap my glazes? Yes, you can. If you're trying to achieve an effect, it is totally possible once these things are dry for you to go halfway in with a vessel at a diagonal angle and then overlap the two to try and get an effect. That is totally possible, and you will get something interesting happening. I do not know exactly what it's going to be, but it will be something. So in my case, I'm taking these same 2 colors, and because the glaze is dry, overlapping them slightly, and I've got my black, my white, and then I'm going to have a mixture of the 2 in that spot. Same thing with the diagonals. If you do the same thing at an angle, you will get that style look. Mr. Parkhill, what about something like brushing? Is it possible for me to take my vessel and then, let's say, brush in this area using one color, and then in another area using another color? Absolutely. If you want to attempt stripes or something like that, give it a shot. That is absolutely an option. I want you guys to have fun with these. Try and make them look as neat as possible. Diagonal dips are interesting. This one's about set up now. I'm going to hold it at a similar angle, dunk it in a different color, and I'm going to fill up that inside piece. Again, these are super fast. And now I've got a couple of different little stripes going on there. I've got a little bit of diagonal overlap. Kind of neat to see how those things are going to turn out. And that's that. If you guys have questions and you have ideas and you want to know how to do things, the important thing is always for you guys to check in with me and ask questions, because those questions are going to drive most of your creativity. And what's the worst that's going to happen? You get a no, and that's not a big deal. So, cool. Glaze your mini pots.